Trey and Jessie, it's good to have you back on another episode of the Green Houseboat series. Today, we're going to talk about something that's really important to boaters, and that's cost. When we talk about going green on a houseboat, there's 6 areas that we want to talk about the affordability about going green. So what can you share with us in terms of the very first area about affordability in going green?
I think the first area is really the products that you use on your boat. And when we say products, really the things you use to clean your boat with. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a pretty mature space. And I think a lot of the manufacturers that deal with things like boat soap and things you use to maintain your boat are very cognizant that there's a good chance the maintenance is happening in the water and maybe not necessarily in your driveway. So I think that's the first thing, is just look at the products and make sure that they're boat specific, because there's a very good chance, I'd say almost a guarantee, that they're going to be safe to use in and around water. And also boats have a kind of a different type of paints and adhesives and things to give them the shine that makes them a boat. Things that aren't designed to be used on a boat can be very abrasive and can actually cause more damage. I think it's affordable to use boat stuff, because if you don't, the damage will make it not affordable.
Yeah, it's a lot more expensive to use stuff that isn't meant to be used on a boat when you're cleaning it, because it's just going to potentially ruin the coatings and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so not only is it good for the environment, it's also really actually good for your budget. So really just, you should use the biodegradable soap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Use the boat soap.
Let's talk about the second area, which is not a pleasant area, but it's really important, and that is toilets.
It is 100% illegal in the lake that we're on and everything around us to dump your waste overboard. So there's a very, I would say, specialized or in some instances, a finicky sanitation systems on boats, similar to kind of the boat products. Use the biodegradable, use the marine or even RV recreational vehicle friendly detergents and toilet paper. They may be a little bit more expensive, but you can't just put regular Charmin down into a boat.
Well, you can, but you probably don't want to.
You don't want to, and that's where it gets to be
also really expensive mistake to make.
Yeah, that's where it gets to be not affordable, is when you have to replace a macerator on a marine toilet because you use Cottonelle or toilet paper like that. So when you're talking about the toilet system or the Blackwater system or even the gray water, again, kind of thinking in the same thought as the first product, there are products meant for boats and RVs, and those are the ones that are biodegradable and that you need to focus on, or else the damage can be pretty bad.
I mean, you guys are training yourselves, but when you have guests on your boat, they have no idea. They think it's a house.
So when we have guests on our houseboats, both of our toilets, on the lid, it has like a reminder to only put organic substances down the toilet. Toilet paper, the marine friendly toilet paper, can go in there, and just, the human waste, but everything else cannot go in there. Otherwise it could potentially ruin the system.
Don't put anything into the toilet unless you've eaten it first.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the Blackwater? You collect it on a lake because you're not allowed to dump it in there, but what happens to it at shore?
So there's a couple different things. So we can take our houseboat to the pump out facility at our marina, or the marina that we go to while you're fueling up. They have a pump out facility right next to it. Every marina on our lake where there's boating, where they have a holding tank, there is a pump out facility. We also, at our marina, there's a pump out boat that will actually come to us. Yeah. So if the weather's really windy, or we know that the tanks could be full, but we're going to have a lot of guests come up and we may not have the time, we'll have the pump out boat come to us and pump it out, and then they will take that to the treatment facility.
Let's move on to the third very important thing, and we've talked about this on land for a long time, and that is lighting and saving electricity. So what are some of the affordable tips for lighting on a green houseboat?
If you're purchasing an older houseboat that's 20 years old, chances are, especially if someone hasn't done renovations, that the lights that are on board are probably not very eco-friendly. So one of the first things that we did when we purchased our houseboat was replace all the light bulbs with LED bulbs, because they're more energy efficient and better for the environment, but it also just saves us money too. So that is one of the easy things that you can just do, especially if you have an older houseboat, is just simply replace the LED bulbs.
And even when we run the inverter, that will draw less energy. So we could use the inverter longer. And in the summertime, the LED bulbs don't put out nearly as much heat. So it's saving energy, whether you're on the grid or off the grid. Put out less heat, and they last exponentially longer than your standard incandescent bulb. Mm-hmm.
What is the fourth affordable tip that we want to talk about for green houseboating today?
So one of the things that we do when we're not at our boat is set our temperature to a reasonable temperature to help us save energy. So when we're not there in the summer, we'll set it to about like 86 degrees. And then when we're not there in the wintertime, we set it to about 50 degrees because we will be eventually coming back to the boat, and we're there often enough to where we don't want to just completely shut off the air one way or the other, because then it's just that much more effort and energy to then get the temperature back to where it was.
And we even have, when we're not there, we'll pay for the least expensive Wi-Fi connection. And then we have the Wi-Fi hooked up to a thermostat. So if we know that we're going to go up on Friday afternoon, I'll set an alarm. I'll wake up a little bit earlier on Friday morning when the interior temperature is probably closer to the ambient temperature of outside, mid 70s or so. And I'll set the air conditioner there so that when we arrive, it's nice for us and our daughter because the temperature's probably 74 to 76 degrees, but we haven't been blasting the AC all day in the middle of the heat to try and bring that temperature down. In the wintertime, we do the same thing as well. So being able to adjust that temperature remotely is a big help as well.
I just want to remind our listeners who are joining us on podcasts that we're talking with Trey and Jessie from Houseboat Life, and we're talking about how to be a green houseboater. And we're into the fifth tip now of affordability when it comes to a green houseboat. The fifth tip is really important about not only green, but just about being smart as a boater, maintenance.
That's one of the biggest expenses from any kind of boat is just going to be maintenance. And I think small little things you can do to upkeep your boat will keep it running more efficiently. And it'll also keep things from having kind of a catastrophic failure. So making sure that the impellers are changed. You want to have your engines and generator running at a cool temperature, making sure that the oil is changed just like you would in your car, taking the time to wash the boat and clean it. And if there's anything that needs repair, because a boat is going to be exposed to the elements, go ahead and get that repaired. Spending a little bit extra on the front end when you start to recognize something will save exponentially. In ours, we only clean once a year. I mean, it's not like an act of Congress to get something done. You just take an afternoon and go do it. Like, it's not that hard.
What's the last tip that we want to talk about today, being affordable as a green houseboater?
It's about kind of the fuel that you burn. Very openly, we have 2 5-liter engines and a generator. So it can be a gas hog. But I think kind of understanding where your boat is most efficient and operating it there. So we could have the biggest engines in the world and our boat wouldn't go any faster. So knowing that about maybe 2,800 RPM is where we're most efficient, where we can get from point A to point B and burn the most efficient amount of fuel. And then when we're out camping is running the generator only when we need to. If we're on the top deck listening to music, or even if we're on the back deck listening to music, we don't need to necessarily run the generator. We don't want to be exposed on the back deck to that carbon monoxide. We're not inside the boat, so we don't necessarily have to run the air conditioner. And honestly, we want to listen to music and not a generator run. So just because generators can run for a long period of time, engines can run for a long period of time, you don't always have to have those things on. And a little bit can add up, a couple hours here, a couple hours there. And next thing you know, you've got an extra day out boat camping because you don't have to go to the gas dock and go fuel up.
We want to remind our viewers that if they want to follow your channel, Houseboat Life, we've got a link in the description below, as well as the 6 tips. Can you share with us again the 6 tips for an affordable green houseboat?
Absolutely. The first is to use environmentally safe boat cleaning product. The second is to use marine-friendly toilet paper and chemicals to clean your Blackwater tank.
The third one is to replace your lights with LEDs if you haven't already. The fourth one is adjust your temperature accordingly if you're not going to be on your boat. The fifth one is about maintenance. Just like anything else, you want to maintain it accordingly so that nothing falls apart and becomes derelict. And the final one is just be conscious about how much fuel you're burning and how much you really need to burn and how fast you really need to go or not go.
Trey, Jessie, thank you so much for sharing these tips for a green houseboater. And we look forward to the next episode where we're going to talk about some of the more advanced things that you can do on your boat. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Trey and Jessie, thank you so much for those 6 budget-friendly tips to how to become a green houseboater. Join our 1 million boater challenge, where we're just asking you to implement just one of these things to help stop pollution. Click on the link below and join the challenge.